Hello, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of the Localization Podcast. This will be number 13. I skipped last week because I was a little bit sick and I was dealing with some life issues. And so I just tried to rest as much as possible after I did my regular job. So this will be a new episode after kind of like 2 weeks break. And I have to admit that once again, it was struggle for me to start recording. I did my preparation. I selected some articles. But as I was reading them, I was not sure how much input I can provide. And even right now, I'm not very confident if there's a lot of value I can add on top of the articles, but I kind of decided that it's better to just simply do something rather than just wait and hope and plan for the best. And because I didn't do anything last week, I need to kind of rebuild my momentum once again from scratch. So for those of you who are new to the Localization Podcast, usually every week I go over the articles on slater.com, but recently it's been usually posts from Twitter and LinkedIn, where I typically search the localization hashtag and I try to pick up interesting articles. Usually I try to pick things that are interesting for me, so I can kind of challenge them, or I can share what is important for me and what I learned. But sometimes it doesn't work that way. I think the last episode 12, was really, really good. I was very happy to share it. The one before that was not so good because I didn't have much to contribute with. So this one, I'm not sure about its quality. So this is a early warning that this one might suck as well. But anyway, I'm happy that I'm recording and let's get straight to it. I had a couple of articles, but as I was reading them, I kind of removed a few of them. So I think right now I am left with just 3 articles. So let's get right into it. The first one is from Moravia's blog, and it's about how localization supply chain models must change. Enterprises going global are upending the way localization supply chains are managed. To grow their business and support customers, they need localization to happen at higher speeds and larger volumes. And this will only intensify as the world demands more and more content in native languages. But you can increase speed and volume without changing the way you manage resources. After all, who does all that work? Qualifying, onboarding, training, and assigning the right resources at the right time is no small feat. The ways in which supply chain managers build, classify, and assign their resource pools will be key in the future of localization. Let's have a look at some of the most visible trends that affect localization supply chain management. So number 1, more resource transparency. Global businesses want more details about the resources working on their content, such as their age, gender, location, language usage at home, and cultural identity. This granularity will help them choose resources who are the best match for their specific content. But it goes deeper than that. Businesses also want to take part in vetting resources, which can mean anything from creating the job description to reviewing resumes to interviewing candidates. There is no longer a black box approach to resourcing translation jobs. Enterprises co-drive the management of the resources with their language service provider. This might take more time, but it's worth it when the resource is a perfect fit for the task and job well done is assured. So as I was reading this for the first time, I can definitely understand the benefit if the buyer wants to have more visibility into who is actually translating the content, instead of having it being like a black box as it usually used to be. But at the same time, it is actually not my experience, especially when it comes to the larger enterprise buyers. These companies usually tend to downsize their internal departments, so it means there are less people on the buyer side who would actually have time to spend and play a more active role when it comes to resourcing. So I think like with the quality review process in place, that's usually the main criteria, how you keep an eye on the quality, without going too much micro into who is actually translating your content, and you leave the training and onboarding on your LSP. But definitely, like, if you want to be more hands-on approach and if you have the time, I think it's definitely a good idea, especially if you're doing something like more creative translation, like transcreation, where you really want your people to kind of like understand the marketing strategy, or you want your translators to understand the end customers. Okay, moving on. Increased demand for new types of resources. Global enterprises need a wider variety of resources than ever before. Businesses are requesting full lifecycle services more often, which naturally expands the resource types required. Supply chain managers need to locate talent to perform new services that traditionally have not been part of localization work. In addition to sourcing translators and proofreaders, they must find very specialized SMEs, creative resources, cultural experts, post-editors, keyword researchers, and more. Supply chain managers must adapt to those type of demands and resource, onboard, vet, and build their supply chains accordingly. So this section kind of goes hand in hand with what I was saying before, and that is that the buyers want more things to be done by the LSPs, and that's why they need to hire more professionals, more types of professionals than just a translator and editor as before. So specialized SMEs, this is something that we were heavily using on Autodesk, although I don't think that LSP was in charge of finding these resources. It was usually Autodesk that was trying to find this, because your specialized SMEs, if they are like the ones who are like reviewing like the localized builds of software and stuff like that, they are the power users of your product. So typically you are in a much better position to recruit them because they're basically your customers. Creative resources, this I think is all tied to marketing and all the creative, maybe even gaming and stuff like that, where you really need someone who can add in some extra flavor into the translation and not just translate word by word. Culture experts, I have no idea what this position actually means. Like if it's someone that can actually help with the marketing strategy for each market and really like help define like the buying personas, or like what is the cultural standards in a certain country. I'm not sure. Or if this could be maybe like combined with the SMEs. So somebody who really like knows the target market, the end users, and the culture expectations of that market. Post editors, so that's pretty much the trend towards which most of the translators are going to shift with MT. Keyword researchers, this is again related to marketing and related to SEO localization. And so what I'm thinking is that I was actually working on the first SEO localization that Autodesk was outsourcing. So we were the ones building the process from scratch, and of course keyword research was one of the tasks that we gave to our translators. So I'm not sure if you could actually survive on the market if you were just a keyword researcher. I think it's probably one of the things that you as a translator who's maybe fearing the machine translation could learn, like pick up these new skills so that you can be more useful and more. Okay, so that's that. So that was the second section. Moving on, third part, requirement for fast on-demand resourcing. In these days of near instant localization, resourcing sometimes needs to be lightning quick. Ramp-up times and advance notice have dramatically decreased, while pressure on turnaround time has rapidly increased. This typically means that a much larger bench of resources is required, lending flexibility, breadth in both languages and subject matter expertise, and scale to the supply chain model. And necessarily, automation is required since the manual process managers used to rely on, Excel spreadsheets, anyone can possibly handle these demanding requirements. I'm not sure how the typical TMS or workflow management systems on the market actually, how they can assist with the pull system. I'm pretty sure, I would say I don't know about it, but the new SDL language cloud, I can imagine that it's possible to do it. Even if you think about it in SDL TMS, you can define like a groups of, let's say, French translators who would always get the French translation task and stuff like that, and then the first one who goes in and claims the task, then he will be the one working on it. So it's not a new concept, definitely not a new one. So that's the on-demand resourcing. Okay, let's continue. The need for translators to adapt to machine translation. Translators in the past have been resistant to machine translation, but we are now seeing a shift in their mindset. The evolution and improvement of MT and the shift toward NMT make resources more willing to collaborate with a machine. A new generation of translators sees machine translation as a tool that can help them speed up and improve their work, and they are ready to work with raw MT output instead of translating from scratch. So I'm not sure if this shift in a mindset is based on some data, but we all know from all the previous episodes, if you listen to them, that MT was pretty much part of almost every episode. So it's everywhere. It's in all the articles. People are using it. We are using it. You are probably using it as well. So there's probably no escaping it. A direct to translator approach. As discussed above, clients these days want to know all about the resources that work from them. I'm not sure about that. But they want direct access to those linguists as well. Clients now want to interact and collaborate with end suppliers to, for example, set strategy, resolve language issues, build processes, and gain market insights. Supply chain managers need to define the most efficient collaboration channels, keeping in mind that quality must remain the focus, not to mention security and legal requirements. This new client-resource relationship also drives a need to increase the number of resources in the supply chain. On top of traditional preferred partners, such as translators who are working on that client's content full-time, businesses need resources who are specific service-focused or who can work in a more ad hoc fashion. Management frameworks need to evolve from what supply chain managers have done in the past. Now this one I need to kind of like go through it again because I don't understand much. Now I really would like to see like a real example where clients actually wanna discuss strategy, build processes, and gain market insights by talking to the end suppliers. And by end suppliers, I assume they mean people in the market, so typically translators. And that would be kind of interesting. I know that when I was working at Autodesk, one of the goals that we were trying to achieve was to open a channel between translators and the dev team or the writers. So when it comes to query management, your query doesn't have to go through a lot of people in the middle. And this way you can speed up the process. I don't know what else to add. Let's move on. A data-driven approach to enable decision-making. Thriving businesses demand a solid data-driven approach. Clients want to see trends across languages, content types, error typologies, time periods, and more. A variety of data needs to be collected and analyzed to detect trends and patterns that cause problems in quality levels, resourcing requirements, and schedules. Over time, the data and the decisions that stem from supply chain strategies can enable more streamlined program management, and enterprises can more confidently drive their business in the right direction. So, definitely agree with this. If you don't have any data about how you work, who gives you the most trouble, who gives the best quality, connected with the timeline and cost, you're probably going to be just guessing, and guessing is not a valid strategy to make good decisions. Final one, no looking back. As these various resourcing demands intensify, supply chain managers are forced to reconsider how they manage their supply chains. They must create new solutions quickly. After all, the resources are fundamental to completing the work and making localization a success. Whoever comes up with the best ways to manage supply chain are those who will prevail. Thanks to Mari Kotaishova, our Director of Supply Chain Management, who contributed her insights for this blog post. So, I don't know if... I haven't actually come across a lot of people in localization that would be calling themselves Director of Supply Chain Management. To me, this seems more like just like a standard vendor management, because it's all about the resources that are part of the whole localization process. But I guess that's how Moravia calls their people. Yeah, that was my conclusion for this article. It's a very poor one. So that was the first article, which was about supply chain management. But as I said, I understand it's more about vendor management. And so the second article is related to this, because this one is from Slater.com, and its title is "So You're a Vendor Manager. What exactly do you do?" ? Vendor managers play a unique role at language service providers. They are the liaison between the in-house team and the scores of providers, primarily freelancers and corporate subcontractors, handling outsourced linguistic work. The general job title, however, downplays the very human elements of vendor management. As a freelancer's central point of contact at the LSP, the vendor manager needs to ensure that the freelancer always feels connected and engaged. So this is a very, very, very good point. And this is something that I was also, I'm going to talk about myself again. This is also something that I was how to say this. This is also something that I was strongly fighting for, and I really had to fight for it when I was at Alpha. And it's not a secret if you just go. Hopefully they improve their payment towards freelancers. But when I was working at Alpha, so that was the third LSP that I was working for, it was the first time ever that I started hearing complaints from freelancers that they are not getting paid, that some of their invoices were not paid for 6 months. There were freelancers who were like holding our job hostage until they got paid. So it was real drama. And I guess Alpha is known, or at least used to be known. I haven't checked if they still do these things. So yeah, and it really felt shitty for me as a project manager and for my colleagues. I'm telling you, like before that, I didn't even think that like something like that could happen, that like companies would not be paying their freelancers. So yeah, that's definitely a big no-no, because if you think about it, freelancers, the people who are translating, people who are editing, they're like the backbone? They're like the main part. Like if you don't have any translation, nobody cares about engineering and QA. Like if you don't get it translated or post-edited, you won't get too far. Localization wouldn't exist without translators in most cases. So yeah, definitely this is a very good thing that they stress out that the freelancer should feel connected and engaged with the company so early in the article. I'm not sure if they actually go deeper into this topic, but yeah, that should be definitely one of the goals of vendor management. Anyway, let's continue the article. From the start, it is critical that vendor managers establish positive rapport with the freelancers they court. Though 38% of a response to a 2017 Slater poll said they find freelance linguists at trade shows, the practicality of this method depends on an LSP's locations and travel budget. Vendor managers rely heavily on online resources to find promising new freelancers. Many LSPs funnel applications through their own website, which can be helpful but can also inundate vendor managers with irrelevant or fake resumes. When vendor managers follow up with an applicant or with a respondent to their job post on platforms like Pros, addressing the freelancer by name and mentioning 1 or 2 points about their specific experience that make them suitable for a project can make the freelancer's first interaction with the LSP feel more personal. Different LSPs have different policies on testing freelancers, but for those that regularly do, companies like Rosalind bring AI into the equation, promising to detect cheating on translation tests and help automate the whole testing process. So there's a link to Rosalind. I have never heard this before. I have never visited their website. So let's just quickly have a look. So Rosalind. So their value proposition is: want to grow your certification business by 10 or 100 times? Rosalind is the platform you need. And it's AI-enabled proctoring, assessment, and certification. I have no idea what proctoring means. Let's go back to the article. Still, there is room for the human touch. Vendor managers should set clear expectations for candidates by explaining the testing process and letting them know when they will receive their results. Once a freelancer has been onboarded and is part of the LSP's network of providers, the vendor manager should keep in touch with the vendor as part of relationship management. This can take many forms: surveys about vendors' experience working with the LSP, video calls to review recent projects, and newsletters to give freelancers a more holistic understanding of the LSP's work. It is standard for LSPs to provide style guides and instructions with each project, but what about training or career development opportunities? In addition to helping freelancers feel valued, Such opportunities help vendors provide higher quality work, often using new tools. EC Innovations Managing Director Vijay Supia told Slater that in particular, constant coaching and technical support have to be provided to translators who are based in emerging markets or developing countries. For LSPs in the US, never mind California for a moment, offerings like these can blur the line between independent contractors and full-fledged employees. As a compromise, tutorials should not be required, and training materials might actually mean recommendations of other resources such as podcasts, books, and articles. An LSP-specific option might be scheduling an optional video conference for freelancers with, say, the in-house language quality manager who can answer questions in real time. As they work behind the scenes, a freelancer's contribution to a successful project can be overlooked. Acknowledging consistently outstanding work can go a long way in making freelancers feel appreciated. Recognition programs might include featuring top performers on social media, providing a glowing testimonial for a freelancer's professional website, or giving a financial reward like an increase in rates or a one-time bonus. Another way of showing gratitude, a catered lunch at the office. Local freelancers can visit the office, meet the in-house team and other freelancers in person, break bread, and talk shop. When it comes to podcasts, or like a way that the linguistic people could ask questions to like in-house language quality manager, I definitely think that's a very, very good suggestion. And I think I was mentioning like podcast or maybe like some video. Is it like an interview? Basically, I don't know, let's say like 1 hour with localization, whatever. So it's something you can record it on a video, you can turn it into a podcast because you just scrap the audio, and you can distribute it to either your customers if they're the target audience, or you could have like an internal podcast which would be just for the freelancers. And it's something that is scalable, and it brings out the personality of that company because you can see the people, you can hear them talk. It leads to more interaction, especially like if you allow people to submit questions that you just directly answer during the live stream, the video, or the podcast. And what else was there? Recognition program. I haven't seen companies recognize freelancers, so definitely recognizing freelancers, that's like really like the next step. So I think it's also a very good idea, especially like if you like give like a shout out to them and maybe you link like their personal profile that could lead them to more work and something like that. My usual phrase when I don't know what more to say. And this reminds me of something that Moravia has done when I was there, which was long time ago, is that they actually flew in their most important, I think not freelancers, but usually they were working with like smaller like language providers, and they flew them in to Brno, and they organized like a catered dinner, and maybe there were some meetings regarding the most important programs that we were working on at that time. So yeah, that was definitely something that I haven't seen anywhere, especially at Alpha, that doesn't even pay the freelancer bills. And let's continue. Vendor managers set the tone for an LSP's relationship with freelancers. That's true. But nurturing in-house relationship is just as important. This is especially true for vendor managers who work remotely apart from their colleagues. Instead of email-only correspondence, video calls can remind individuals that they are working toward shared goals. Vendor managers should also be included periodically in other department meetings to understand how the work contributes to the LSP's overall growth. Another option is a monthly meeting where project managers and vendor managers can discuss successes and challenges. Project managers should understand the vendor vetting process, including testing, checking references, and confirming credentials. This gives the PM more confidence in working with new vendors. When data and feedback from a PM point to issues with a vendor, the vendor manager should ask the PM for suggestions on next steps and then keep the PM in the loop as they follow up with the vendor. Although the role of vendor manager is often only created once an LSP has reached a certain size, a vendor manager or vendor management team is essential to scaling any LSP. Adding a human touch to vendor management can ensure that freelancers feel like people, not numbers, and that PMs feel like their vendor managers have their back. So as I was reading this, one important thing is that the vendor managers usually, maybe they're part of the recruitment, the onboarding, the initial training, and maybe they can do some events or like try to work on the relationships here and there. But I still think like most of the time actually it comes down to the project managers, because they are the ones who are working with freelancers on a daily basis, and it all comes down to like the quality of your instructions, how much time you give them, how do you communicate with them, and stuff like that. So I think that the project managers are actually the first line when it comes to building relationships with the freelancers, simply through the way that they are working. It's the same as with HR. Like maybe HR can come up with some nice initiatives, but like if the people that you work on a daily basis, or if your managers are like doing something completely different than like the HR, it doesn't matter like if they organize like a nice team event like once in a year. So that was my point for the second article. So moving on, the final article that I have here for this episode number 13 is from Argo Translation. Argo Translation, we haven't had any article from them yet. I think that I applied to a position with Argo at some point. And this is an article that actually I'm going to be bitching about a little bit, because it's 7 ways localization marketing can boost your conversion rates. So this article could be probably good for people who don't know much about localization, they don't know much about marketing. So it's really like a beginner article, because to me, if you understand a little bit about it, it's really just like common sense, kind of like a common sense. And actually I think like they have, well, the article is 7 ways, but I think like many of their points actually say the same things. So anyway, let's just get into it. In today's ever-changing world, one-size-fits-all approach to marketing doesn't work anymore. After all, digital marketing methods give you the opportunity to reach customers all over the world. Nearly 90% of all major global companies say they're pursuing localization marketing. Content localization marketing alters your website content for a specific destination, adapting your content for the reader's local language and culture can make it easier for you to connect with your audience. As a result, you're able to personalize content for your readers, improve brand trust, and turn prospects into sales. Keep reading to learn 7 ways localization marketing can boost your conversion rates. So here we go. Number 1. Expand your target market. Not everyone speaks English as their primary language. Ooh, surprise. If all of your content is in one language, you're neglecting readers who speak and read another. As a result, you could unintentionally close yourself off to a large segment of potential customers. With advancing technology and the internet's wide reach, you can market your company to people across the globe. Localization marketing ensures you're communicating to any member of your audience at any given time. By focusing on a multilingual marketing strategy, you're expanding your target market. A larger pool of customers gives you more opportunities for growth. Instead of cutting yourself off to customers, you can show them the benefits of choosing your business. When you use localization translation, what does it mean, localization translation? I don't know. You can market your value to these potential customers and set yourself apart from the competition. Otherwise, why would global customers choose your business over the company in their region? A cultural and language divide could turn them away. By expanding your target market, you're also increasing brand awareness. A localization strategy will help people across the globe learn about your business. Once you increase brand awareness, you can attract more people into becoming loyal, paying customers. So basically what this whole thing says, expand your target market, is that if you localize your content and your website into different language, you will expand your target market and you will reach more people. Wow. That's like real basics, like localization basics. Like not everyone in this world speaks English. Hello. We know that. Thank you. Number 2, improve user experience. According to a report, 72% of global customers are more likely to complete a purchase when information is presented in their own language. People are more comfortable in environments that feel familiar. When customers are comfortable, they're more likely to make an online purchase. More than just the specific language being used, an important factor in website development is user experience. The easier the user experience, the happier your customers are. Happy customers don't just make a one-time purchase. Often enough, they turn into loyal, repeat customers. Localization marketing can help you improve your website user experience by using culturally appropriate visuals and terminology while avoiding aspects that could offend local audiences. When global customers have an easy time using and navigating your website, they'll be more likely to stick around and increase the likelihood of completing a sale or conversion. So first of all, they start by using the percentage that I've seen like in so many articles which are promoting localization, and that is if customers are presenting the information in their own language, they are more likely to buy. So that's kind of like basically repeating the whole first thing, which is like if you translate or localize your website, you will be reaching more people. And of course, if that website is now in their own language and they can finally understand, of course it improves their user experience because they understand the website now. They are talking about using culturally appropriate visuals, and I would really be surprised if I approached Argo translation with my website that would be designed in a certain way, and I would be really surprised if they told me that, hey, you know, like if you go to Japan, it would be actually better to use different colors. I would really be surprised if they actually came back to me as the professionals to culturally adapt the visuals of my website. So improve user experience by simply making it available in the target language. That's the same thing as the first part. Okay. Decrease bounces. Oh gosh. Your website's bounce rate increases when people visit your website but don't click around beyond the original page they land on. If people leave because your website is in a language they don't speak, which was what you already mentioned in the first part, that bounce rate will rise, and a higher bounce rate will hurt your ranking on search engines such as Google. When you have a lower search engine ranking, it becomes more difficult for people to find you online. Localization marketing will ensure your content applies to the reader and will increase their time on site. If they can't read your website, how will they understand the content? An unfamiliar language could also make navigating from page to page difficult. You can avoid this issue with language localization. Now, your website visitors will have the option to read the content in their own language. They can click around, thereby improving your bounce rate. Better yet, they might click on a form, phone number link, or your product pages. Since the information, including your call to action, is in their language, visitors won't have an issue determining which action to take on the page. As a result, they'll take the action, convert, and become international customers. So again, this is going back to the initial thing, which is simply translate your website. And of course, people are not going to go away if they actually understand what the website is about. Number 4, international search engine optimization. People search Google for the products and services they need in their native language. Then, search engine optimization shows website results based on the keywords used in their search. If your website content lacks a localization strategy, however, your website content won't show up. For example, an American company that sells clothing would use the word pants. Meanwhile, someone in London would use the word trousers during their search. In this case, the American company's clothing line wouldn't show up on the first results page. The effect is even more pronounced in completely disparate languages that lack direct translations. With a language localization strategy, you can optimize your content for SEO, allowing you to boost conversions with international customers. So this part of the article is something interesting, especially the example with the pants and trousers. So yeah, putting more emphasis on not just localizing the content, but also optimizing it for search engines. That is definitely something that should be part of the marketing content localization. So that's okay. Number 5, improve brand loyalty. Increasing conversions with first-time buyers is an initial step towards growth. With a localization marketing strategy, you can turn those one-time conversions into repeat customers for long-term growth. Localization translation on your website makes it easier to connect with customers. Publishing your content in their native language would also show you respect their culture. To operate globally, you need to respect customers on a local level. As a result, you're able to show customers you care about their specific needs. When consumers recognize a company cares about their concerns, they're more likely to stay loyal to that business. So again, this mainly talks about publishing your content in their native language, which basically means just translate / localize the content and you will improve brand loyalty. So it's again the same thing. When it comes to brand loyalty, I think that the brand loyalty would be, besides translating the content, is about giving a good customer support in the native language and maybe interacting with your customers in their native language. And by interacting, I mean like answering their questions on social media or maybe even creating content for them. Hell, what do I know? Number 6, avoid confusion. Trying to understand measurements or delivery costs for another country can get confusing. Your customers probably don't want to spend time throwing your page content into unreliable machine translation engines like Google Translator. With localization marketing, you can clarify these details for your customers. All of the information will switch to the right measurement system for a particular target audience. Otherwise, you might receive unhappy customer service complaints about international shipping expenses and clothing sites. Well, this again kind of comes down to localizing the website and the e-commerce site correctly. Because if you are LSP or if you're a translator and you get the whole page for translation, so you can translate like the product information and stuff like that, but then you get to the checkout process, which talks about shipping and everything. So this information needs to be localized so that it works for the target market. But yeah, okay, let's say that this part is good to maybe mention. Happy customers. Number 7, happy customers equals business growth. Really? No way. Your customers are the ones driving your business growth. When they're happy with their shopping or online experience with your company, it shows in sales. Yes, people spread the word about these happy experiences too. By using a localization strategy, you can generate happy customers across the globe. Then they'll share their experience with friends or other people online. As a result, you're also increasing brand awareness and improving your company's online reputation. Ta-da! Yes, happy customers. Yes, if you localize your website, you will have happy customers and your business will grow. Simple as that. Then we have what? Localization marketing, improving business opportunities. Connect with customers across the globe. By using localization marketing, you can optimize opportunities to make sales, improve brand loyalty, and ultimately grow your business. Are you ready to implement a localization strategy? Request a quote from our team today to get started. So, anyone who was convinced by this article and they found it super new, super fresh, like they now know what they need to do, please go to argotrends.com and request a quote from this team. I'm sure they will help you conquer the global market and you will increase your sales, you will grow, and your customers will be super happy. Okay. And yeah, that's going to be it for episode 13. I'm kind of happy how it turned out in the end. Maybe I didn't warn you in the beginning. I still have a little bit of cold, so I sneeze here and there. I have to clear my nose from time to time, so maybe I will have a little bit of funky voice on this recording. But in the end, I'm quite happy. I think I was able to provide some comments to these 3 articles. I think we are around 1 hour of raw recording time, so this one won't be that long, but it's still pretty decent size for a podcast. So I think this one I will mainly when I think about the title for this one, I think it will be mainly about vendor management, because we had 2 articles about resourcing and vendor management and how to make your freelancers happy and positive and engaged. And the last article is kind of like meh. Well, anyway, that's going to be it for episode 13. By the way, it's Tuesday, it's 5:30 p.m, so the sun is going down. I'm still here in Manila, by the way, and I'll be going back to Canada on Friday, so the next episode, episode 14, will be recorded again from Vancouver. And if I grow my balls big enough, I will actually launch my Twitch again and I'll start live streaming the recording of this, maybe even the editing part and stuff like that. So I definitely want to do more content. I just need to regain my momentum, because like I was so very lazy after I got sick. Yeah, so that's going to be it. Definitely no more words from me. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for watching. If you don't know about it yet, I also record myself on a video so that the content on YouTube is not just like a static image, so you can see me recording this episode on YouTube if you don't know about it yet. And that's going to be it. Thank you again for listening. The audience is growing slowly. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Have a good day, good evening, good night, wherever you are. Bye.